Hey, besties and bosses. Happy Tuesday. How's everyone's week? I'm excited to hang with you. We're going to chat today about the two things you need to share more of if you want to sell more. As many of you know, I just moved last week, so I'm still trying to figure out where's the best Wi-Fi in the apartment? Where's the not super white backdrop? But we're going to make it work today. I think the Wi-Fi in here works pretty well, and we'll get a more interesting backdrop at some point. If you're just joining, say hey. I always love to know who's live with me, and can't wait to dive in. So I'm trying to think where I want to start with this topic. This is something that's been coming up with my clients quite a bit, and I think it's really relevant to, hey Tiffany, nice to have you here. Always happy to have you here. I think this is really relevant for everyone in this group. So I think if you're here, that means you're a business owner, you're showing up online, you're probably sharing content, you're probably making an effort to be visible, to put yourself out there. And I think sometimes there can kind of be this question mark around okay, so I'm showing up, what do I need to talk about? What do I need to share to book clients? What do I need to share to connect with people? What am I supposed to put in my content? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to talk about that's gonna help me book more clients? And I think, hey Stephanie, nice to have you. So happy to have you both. Let me know if this is resonating. By the way, I always say this and I need to remind everyone, and if you have questions now or on the replay, always happy to answer them. So I think in general, especially I think as you're putting content out there, all sorts of question marks can come up. Is this okay to share? Should I talk about this? What should I talk about? How do I talk about things in a way where it gets people to actually want to freaking talk to me and hire me? Am I right? Can I get an amen? Can I get some praise hands? Have you ever been there? And what I find when I chat with clients, especially when it comes to content, but we're really gonna be talking about marketing and sales overall today, is I think there's this general idea where it's the only things that you can talk about or that matter are sharing value, and value meaning that's gotta be tips, or it's gotta be you have to blow someone's mind with how to do something. It's those how-to posts, or you gotta talk about your message, and kind of after that, it's we can draw a blank, right? At least I know for many of my clients that's the case. And I think what happens when we kind of get ourselves into this box is we start to unintentionally, I talk a lot about hiding in plain sight and the importance of taking up space like a boss, which we're going to chat about today. But I think unintentionally, when we kind of get really myopic with our content, what we're sharing online, we unintentionally put ourselves in a box and don't realize that we're really playing small and hiding in plain sight and really keeping potential clients, people who want to hire us, from even seeing us and knowing that we can help them and that we're going to be a good match. And so that's what I want to chat about today, because what I have found over and over again from my own experience, and just as my business has grown, I had, 88K in sales in the month of August, and it was around 25K cash take home. So I know what I'm talking about. And just as I see this with clients in terms of who's having an easy time showing up, connecting, converting, who's, having a little more challenge, when we peel back the layers, there's always two things I find that really make a big difference when it comes to connecting and converting online. And yes, it's sharing value, but this is a different type of value, and that's what I want to talk about today. And these two things, I know I'm teasing it out, but I gotta do my job and tease it out a little bit, so you hang with me. These two things, what I find for most entrepreneurs, and I'll be interested to hear with you as you listen, most people have one of these two things down, and the place they hide in their business is in the other thing. So I'm gonna share what these two are, but what I find is sometimes people are just hiding with both of them. If you're hiding in both of these, great opportunity today. Pick one and dive in. But most of the time what I find with clients is they've got one down and they use the other one as their place to hide in plain sight, because they're well, I'm doing this other thing, and they're missing that other piece, and you really need both of these. And I'm gonna explain why. So I'm gonna share what they are, I'm gonna explain why, I'm gonna talk about how these really help you connect and sell more online, and we'll have some examples from my business and from clients. Alexandra, nice to have you. Hi, y'all. Oh, I love having y'all live. So thank you for being with me. So the two things, and wait for it, I feel I gotta tease it out. The two things I wanna invite you to share more of, and if you share these two things, they're going to help you connect and sell more. That is your mess and your magic. And we had to go with two M's because you all know I love alliteration. I love the letter M. But really, your mess and your magic are two things that are going to help you sell more. And you have to share both of them. What I find, and I'd be curious to hear from people here, what I find for so many people is they're really good at sharing their mess and they forget to share their magic. Or they're really great at sharing their magic, but they forget to share their mess because fear comes up in one side or the other. which we'll break down a little bit, like kind of how that shows up. And if you don't have both of these pieces, they can actually do you more harm than good. You really need both of them. Judy, hey, gorgeous. Hey, gorgeous, back. So nice to see you. Stephanie says, mess and your magic. Yes, mess and your magic, the two M's. Your mess and your magic will make you money and will also help your message. All the M's we can throw in here. So your mess and your magic. So what do I mean by that? Your mess, and I use the word mess because of the alliteration. I don't really mean that anyone here is messy, but if we think about our mess, your mess, it's your truth. It's the less than shiny moments. It's the stuff that you've had to work through. It's the stuff for most people, whatever your mess is, that's part of your humanness. So humanness is what connects us. When we think about what compels people to buy, when they're taking a look, they've done studies on this, when people are taking a look at products, if two things are the same, people will always go with the product they feel like they know, like, and trust more. That's why we hear about know, like, and trust more. If there are two products and one is inferior, in terms of like the quality isn't as good, but someone feels like they really know that person or like that person and trust that person, they're more likely to buy from that person they trust. When we talk about our mess, I'm talking about your truth. I'm talking about the shit you've had to work with. I'm talking about the less than shiny moments. I'm talking about the stuff that makes you human, that connects us to one another. And there's more to it than just connection, but the connection is that first piece there. I want you to understand like why this is so important and it helps you sell. I think sometimes we get into sharing things online and we get into like, here are the 3 tips you need to know to X, Y, and Z. Let's say you're a weight loss expert. Here are the 3 things you need to, I know nothing about fitness and health outside of going on the Peloton and eating pizza. But here are the 3 ways to cut carbs so you can lose weight. Don't take diet advice from me ever, because I'll just tell you to eat pizza and drink champagne. However, let's say that's what you were selling. If you just share that, said with love, like, man, kind of boring, right? Like we can see, I can Google that shit all day long. We see stuff like this all day long. If you're someone who's talking about how to cut carbs to lose weight, this is the silly example, but if you're like, hey, I used to be someone, like my mess is that I really struggled with this. I was someone who was like Kim and always just wanted to eat pizza and like loved pizza so much, and I didn't know how to control that, and it really made me always feel bloated and gross. And then I realized I had a gluten intolerance and it was also making me gain weight. I don't even know if that's a thing, but let's just say that is. If suddenly you're sharing that, do you see how that changes the story you're sharing? Because you're sharing a little bit of your truth. You're sharing, I'm using the word mess, but it's a little bit more of the stuff that you've had to work through, that you've had to go through. And so it draws a picture that helps people connect to you. And if someone is going through the same thing, they're like, oh, me too. And here's what happens when we get into that part where someone's like, oh, me too, suddenly you're helping someone feel heard and understood. The name of the game in sales and selling is helping someone feel heard and understood, creating enough trust so someone feels safe to invest their money through you, through your product, through your service. So if you can help someone to feel safe, if you can help someone to feel heard and understood, if you can help someone to feel like they're not alone and they're not wrong for their mess, you have built a connection. They're like, oh, this person gets me, and you've created safety. That safety is so important when it comes to selling. You know, if whether you're selling something like we're talking with that example around, you know, fitness or health, or you're selling business coaching, or you're selling, I just bought a new mattress, you know, whatever that thing is, we want to buy from people. We want to hand over a credit card or money. I want to buy a mattress. What did I do? I wanted to read reviews. And when I read reviews, and there were people that were like me who mentioned things that I struggle with or that are important to me or that I have a hard time with when it comes to sleep, I was like, oh, this is like me. I feel heard and understood. I feel safe. I feel connected to this. And then suddenly I want to hand over my money. Alexander says, thank you. To the, I don't know which part you mean, but more than my pleasure. Is that even a term? So really, really important here. What I find, and this is one place I see people hide in plain sight. I talk about that a lot because it is one of the biggest ways I see entrepreneurs sabotage their sales, is going through the motions, checking things off the to-do list, doing the things you're supposed to, following your strategy, but pulling back, essentially hiding in plain sight, AKA showing up online you're visible, but you're hiding, you're pulling back. And what happens when we pull back and we hide in plain sight, people cannot see you. And when people can't see you, or they can see you, but if they can't see you, like who you are, especially in a service-based industry, you're missing that connection point and you're missing that ability to create that trust. And that is everything in sales. And so that is one of the biggest ways I see people hide in plain sight. And part of it comes around this mess piece, because what happens if whatever your mess is, so part of my mess, many of you know, because I share my mess all the time. I struggled my first year in business. I made some sales, but I always joke that I was on the struggle bus. I got to share that with you. So I hear you if you've been there. I get you if you've been there. I feel you if you've been there. I want you to feel heard and understood and know you're not wrong if you're on the struggle bus. And I want you to know, and here's what's on the other side. Like, you don't have to stay on the struggle bus. I share that I've gone through depression. I share, how I think I wrote a post a few years ago when I felt like I was freaking crazy because of, chemically what was going on in my mind and what I was struggling with. And I share that, not because it's like so easy and it feels so good. Like, it's not always easy to share your mess publicly, but I know it's of service to share it with all of you. I know if I do that, it's going to help you. That is value, right? And it's going to help you start to see through my mess some of yourself and start to see, like, have some hope, or start to see what's possible, or start to see that connection point, or feel heard and understood. Let me know if this is making sense. And what I find for a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of the work I do with clients is working around the fear of sharing that, because of course, what comes up? If we're gonna show up online, we're gonna take up more space, which is it's kind of the antithesis of hiding in plain sight, is taking up space. And I know I talk about that a lot, but for those of you who are new to my world, taking up space, what I mean by that is quite literally embodying your whole body energetically, owning who you are in your work, and like taking up your space in the world as a business owner. If we're going to take up space like a boss, like a CEO, and we're going to use that energy and use the online space to grow an audience and to ask people to buy from us, part of taking up your space is not hiding in plain sight with your mess. Part of it is sharing your truth. That is walking your talk. And here's the beautiful thing: when you share that mess and you share your truth, it also creates social proof and evidence. So I will use this, usually I would never disclose client information, but I had a client of mine go live with me. So he shared all of this, so this is public information, so I can share this. If any of you watched the interview with my client Craig a few weeks ago, we did a live stream where he just did a Kickstarter. Part of what has blown his business up is really doing the mindset work to not hide in plain sight and to own his mess. His mess is he got arrested and went to federal prison. That is a huge part of his story, and he essentially had to reinvent his life, and now he's completely reinvented his life, started over, built a successful business, written a book, done a TED Talk. He's incredible. His Kickstarter, by the way, hit over 10K today. 12K, I think. He's at the very end, he's like $2,000 away from hitting his Kickstarter goal. But that's a side note. But a big part of what is allowing him to connect with people online that literally reach out to him and are like, hey, I want to hire you as a coach, is him being willing to share his mess, to share that vulnerable part of the story. And here's what I want you to see, because that's a great example. If he just said, I help people reinvent their lives and start over, and I've written a book, and I've done a TED Talk, and I have a coaching business, that's interesting, right? Like, you're like, well, that's cool. But the reason people reach out to him and hire him isn't because of it is because of the TED Talk, because of what he's saying, but it's because of what he shares in his TED Talk. What he shares in his TED Talk is his mess. It's that he was in prison and had a moment where he thought about committing suicide and how he had to turn his life around. That's a hard mess to share vulnerably. And what it does is that vulnerability creates connection, and that connection has people see, oh, he's been where I'm at. He's been at rock bottom. He's been in a worse place than I have. If he can go from there to where he is now, he can help me, or he's not going to judge me, or he's going to understand me, or he's going to see me. There's so many things that come up there that create that trust, and that trust is what sells. I just want to hear these comments, and then I want to talk about the magic part. Jera says, I'm learning how important this is. Lenita, hi love. She says hello. So, so, so important. Now, what I think happens in our online space, like the pendulum kind of swings, I think, in our online space. Some of the time people are like, share vulnerably, share all your mess. And then other times it's like, that's gonna screw up your business and don't share anything. And I've been in the online space for a while. For as long as I've been in the online space, it's kind of swung. When I first came in, it was like, share your whole heart and your soul. And it was almost like make up hard shit that's not true. And I think the pendulum's kind of swung a little bit the other way for a while, where it was like, don't do, there was like a backlash. I think it's probably somewhere in the middle now. What I will offer you and what I offer my clients when it comes to sharing your mess. Share what's true always. Here's the fucking deal, guys. The truth sells and the truth wins, and people can always tell when you're not telling the truth. So when you're hiding in plain sight, even if you're not sharing your mess, if there's something you're not sharing and there's something, you don't have to share all the things, but something that relates to your work that's important for your people to know, and you're kind of pulling back and what we call hiding in plain sight, people can tell. They won't necessarily know what. It's not like they can tell what you're thinking, but people can tell when something's off. And what happens is they just know something's off, and so it just breaks that trust, right? There's like, I don't know what it is. I'm maybe not even consciously thinking of this, but something here feels off. I know a few years ago, there was a coach who kept like reaching out to me and doing marketing, and like all of the content was really brilliant, but there was something that felt off. And I'm sure, I don't know, because I didn't hire her, I hired a different coach, but I am sure in my bones, it's because there's something she wasn't sharing. And I was just like spidey senses picking something up. And what happened is people can tell, and they won't necessarily know what it is, but they can just tell something's off. And people need that trust, especially if you're selling those higher ticket offers to buy. I'm sure you've all been on the flip side of that, right? Where something's like super shiny and like the marketing's great and like something just feels off. And a lot of times I think it's because people are hiding in plain sight. They're not taking up full space because they're either not sharing their mess or they're not sharing their magic, which we're gonna talk about, because you can hide in plain sight and not share your magic. So with the mess piece, what I want to specify here is this does not mean you have to share like all your deepest, darkest secrets or all the hard shit you've ever been through or all of your mess. That is, I think, where this gets into, it's almost like oversharing and where we're being really indulgent. Have you ever like been with, I don't know, like been on a date or been with a friend where all of a sudden you're like, oh, I just overshared and I can't stop the words from coming out, and like, how do I put them back in? This is just really self-indulgent and kind of selfish. Or you may have been on the receiving end of that. That's not what we're talking about here. This is not an invitation to go just like use the online space as your journal, or to use the online space to process, or to use the online space to heal, or to like just ask people to take care of you. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the things that your people need to know about you, about your work, about the things you've been through in general that you're on the other side of. So I think I don't believe in rules, but just as like a general loose rule, share the messes that you're on the other side of, that you have a lesson attached to or that's tied into the work you do. And like this mess that you've gone through is something that makes you better at what you do. Just need a sip of water. With our pizza gluten example, you know, that's an example of if you're on the other side of that because you realize you have a gluten intolerance and like how to make pizza that's gluten-free so you can still fulfill that craving. Like if part of your mess was, but you used to always eat pizza and get bloated and have that stomach ache, right? Like that's something you're on the other side of. And so and it's very much related to your work. If you're someone who does health and fitness or helps people with IBS and gluten, it wouldn't necessarily make sense to like drudge up your trauma and share that on the online space that you're still working through with your therapist. So do we see the difference there? We're not talking about just like share all the things. We're talking about share the things that are your truth as it relates to your work. Share the things that you are like, kind of like, I wish people wouldn't know this about me because I'm afraid they won't think I'm good enough at what I do, or I'm afraid this will disqualify me. Because that stuff is the stuff that connects, and that's usually the stuff that helps people understand why you specifically are the person they should hire. Stephanie says you need your spidey senses. Yes, you do. You need your spidey senses. And if you're in this group, I know you got spidey senses. We all got spidey senses. We just don't always know what the spidey sense is telling us. I'll share an example here. So I have and without like disclosing who clients are, but I think this is general enough to give an example. I have a client who there was something in her business that she like wasn't telling people. And it was for her creating kind of a lot of agita and a lot of stress behind the scenes, which was, of course, spidey senses. People can pick up, they don't know what that is, and was making it hard for her to book clients. And we talked a lot about like how important it was to share this publicly. And it was something she knew her people struggled with. So it was very much related to her people. I'm not even kidding you. The second she shared her mess publicly and shared this, you know, in a live stream, in a learning container, in a way where it was like sharing her truth and sharing kind of her journey through this, she booked a client right afterwards. That is not a coincidence. That is because all that emotional anxiety around trying to keep a secret goes away. And when we share those things we've struggled with that our people need help with as well, that is instant connection. That builds know, like, and trust. That helps people feel heard and understood. Carrie Ann says, my spidey senses tell me not to enter love triangles. LOL, sorry, it must be the full moon. Totally okay in this group to talk about not entering love triangles. That, you know, I think those are some pretty good spidey senses. I love it. And is it a full moon? I always figure out it's the full moon, like when something weird is happening, like it must be a full moon. So if it's a full moon, thank you for letting me know. I feel like I'm supposed to do something for that I don't know about. So with your mess, I think that's a really, Carrie Ann says, LOL. Too funny. Yes to spidey senses and yes to not entering love triangles. You know, unless that's, here's a great thing though about love triangles. So I have a friend who's in a love triangle, and I will share this because I'm not disclosing names, so it's fine. But she is sharing, I'm calling it a mess loosely. It's not actually a mess, but we're all on the same page here. When I say your mess, I mean your truth. I mean the stuff that's important for people to know, that really helps people connect. I'm talking about going deeper and sharing, not hiding in plain sight, right? But she is in a love triangle where she's communicating with the people in the love triangle. And so it's really transparent and all truth is on the table and all of the mess is on the table for everyone. And so it's actually this really beautiful love triangle that who knows how it's going to play out, but it's actually helping everyone. It's helping everyone to feel heard and understood and to connect in a new way and to heal through some things. And like without going too much down a rabbit hole, I think that's even a great example of we're making this joke about like spidey senses and not entering into a love triangle, and seeing how even there, when we're willing to embrace and to share that mess with other people, how that can become a connection. Whereas what usually happens in something like a love triangle, the reason that becomes such a mess is people don't want to share their truth. They don't want to tell other people, and there's so much guilt and shame and worry around like, what are other people going to think? Is someone going to find out? What's going to happen? Am I going to lose this person? All this noise, right? It's the same thing in business. When you have something you're not sharing, in the back of your mind, it's like, what if someone finds this out? Is this going to discredit me? Are they going to think I'm not good enough? Am I going to lose a client? Am I not going to, like all of that noise? And that's what keeps us hiding. And that's what people pick up in terms of spidey sense. So this is actually kind of a great example. It's the same thing. Like I said to a client today, the truth will set you free. The truth will set you free, and the truth will connect you to those clients. Carrie Ann says, I'm not highly evolved enough to be polyamorous. And then she says, so true. Alexandra says, that's amazing. She booked a client right after opening up. It's so, Carrie Ann, you're cracking me up. And Alexandra, it's so beautiful. And I think it's just such a beautiful example of this. And I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I think there's just a couple of things that happen when we open up and we share the truth. That's what we're talking about with this love triangle example. It's like, first of all, you stop hiding. When you stop hiding, you take up more space. When you take up more space, A, you can be seen in a whole different way. And B, there is an energy when we take up space. Like I always use this example for clients, but like when I'm hiding, even if I'm right here, it's like, I just have a whole different energy, right? When I'm embodying and taking up my space, and I'm not trying to hide because I'm worried you're going to find something out, it is a completely different energy. It is an energy, if you believe in energy, that attracts. Even if you don't believe in energy, just watching me physically, you can see the difference between like, I am open, I am like here, I'm taking up my space, I am confident, like I'm willing to share this, like let's work together, versus like, it's just like it's a whole different visual cue. So I think there's just so many layers to this when you're willing to share your mess, AKA that truth, what that does for your sales and booking clients on so many levels. And again, just that reminder, we're not talking about, you don't have to dig up your hardest, darkest, deepest secrets that you're working through with therapy, or that, you know, are your personal things. That's not what we're talking about. That's almost like that's like a different form of self-sabotage, I think, where people take this idea, it's like we can do anything too much. That's just another way of self-sabotage. If it doesn't connect to your work and how you serve people, or it's not something your people need to know, you don't need to share. That's not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about the things you need to share with your people that you're not sharing because you're worried they're gonna judge you. You're worried they're not gonna hire you. You're worried they're not gonna like you. They're worried, fill in the blank, all the fear that causes us to hide instead of take up that space. Alexander says, I think not thinking I don't have a mess to share that would connect with my people is an invitation to dive deeper. Yeah, I would say like, hey, sometimes we like don't have a mess, and like there's like we don't need to create problems that don't exist. But I would say there, like I don't know what the work you do is, but like most of us, whatever we do, there's been some journey we've gone through, and sometimes the mess is like, sometimes we talk about sales a lot in this group. I share a lot, like part of my mess is just that I used to be terrified of selling. I'm going to talk about magic. I used to be terrified of sharing my magic. You know what I mean? And like that's something I share very openly because I know a lot of my clients struggle with the same thing. And it's something I really want to be truthful and honest about and not just pretend like I woke up and this was so freaking easy. It's like, oh, I've had to do the fucking work to feel confident to sell, to feel confident to show up and like love and embrace sales, and to feel confident sharing the good stuff. That's been part of my so-called mess, but it's not like a deep, dark thing I've had to dive deeper around. So I don't know if that helps you, Alexandra. Sometimes it's just like part of your journey or part of the work you've had to do that you can now help people around. And a lot of times I'll say like with the truth or with that mess, sometimes it's a bigger thing. Sometimes it's also the very thing you're now helping people with. So sometimes we don't realize how far we've come, and we forget sometimes that the thing we're so great at helping people with, that we're so great in terms of like whatever your service is something that at one point you struggled with. And so sometimes that can just be that piece to like let people know, hey, I've been there too. I used to be you, because that is very connecting, and that'll tie into the magic. Alexander says, LOL, I got it, yeah. I use the word mess because it starts with an M in mess and magic, the alliteration, but it doesn't necessarily literally have to be a mess. But if you can share that more and more with your people and not always feel like you have to be like, hey, I'm the expert who knows everything and I've never struggled with anything, it is so connecting. And what it does is it helps you meet your people where you're at, and it puts out that hand to your people that's like, hey, let me help you because I've been there, instead of, hey, I know better than you, acting better than you, or like coming from that place. That makes a disconnect, right? That makes it harder for people to feel safe. And so that's what we're really talking about here. Alexander says, thanks, I help with content repurposing. Beautiful. I'm sure at one point you didn't know about content repurposing. Like I'm sure there's a great story there that you have. I just know myself before I learned about repurposing content. I spent way too much time on content, how stressful it was. So even within that, there's probably just some stuff to say like, hey, I've been there too. That's why I'm so good at this. So that kind of brings us to the flip side of this, which is your magic. So here's the other interesting side. And what I said at the beginning of this live stream, that'll be interesting to hear for everyone here, is I find for most of us, we're good at sharing, or most of my clients, we're good at sharing one or the other, either our mess or our magic, but you really want to share both. And so when it comes to your magic, what I'm talking about is owning the work you do, owning why you specifically are the person to help someone solve their problem, and then absolutely owning the magic you bring to the table in some of those results, and bragging on yourself. But I'm also talking like specifically about like, what is your magic? What is your zone of genius? What's your special sauce? What do you bring to the table? Why are you the person that someone should hire? Why are you the person to help someone with their problem? And this goes hand in hand with that mess, right? If we're sharing, here's the mess I've been through, here's the struggle bus I've been on, here's the part where like I hear you, I understand you. If we just share that and we forget to share the other side, which is, and now I'm on the other side and I can help you with this, and that's part of why I'm the best person you can hire to help you with this, we're just kind of opening up a bag of drama and not giving people a solution, right? Like it's kind of messed up if you think about it. Like that's when we get into this place of like just vulnerably sharing and spewing online without an intention, and it's not actually of service. And this is why you really need both. You need to share what is your magic, because your magic is the part that after you've built that trust and connection says, and I can help you. There is hope. You're not stuck here. Let me give you a solution. Let me tell you what's on the other side of this mess. It's this magic. If you don't have both those pieces, you see how like that's just like calling up a best friend and bitching, which, hey, I got my best friend. I do that too, but that's not business. That's not sales. We're talking about using this in business, and we're talking about selling. So if you're gonna share your mess, you have to share your magic. And what I find when it comes to sharing your magic, just how some of us wanna hide in plain sight and not share that mess, or like, you know, those pieces we've struggled with, or like whatever connects us our truth, just as many of my clients, and this is like, my edge is the magic, sharing the magic side. I got no problem sharing all the mess. Most of us can share one and have a hard time sharing the other, but you need to share your magic too. Again, otherwise you're leaving people hanging. And if you just share your magic, that's beautiful, but that's kind of like what we were talking about before, where it's like, I got this, I'm so good at this, like I can help you like with your diet, with your fitness, but I've never been there, like I don't know what you're going through, like that's very disconnecting too, right? Like if you're just sharing the magic, you're just like bragging on yourself and saying why you're so good at something, great. That's beautiful. Like, you know, if you're in this group, like I am all about that, like abso-fucking-lutely. But sometimes we got to meet people where they're at. Sometimes we got to say like, hey, and I'm human too. And that's why you can trust me. That's how you know I can understand you. That's how you know I hear you. We really need both those pieces. I want to read these comments and then let me know if this is making sense. Stephanie says, so often I forget to celebrate my small wins, so my magic gets past me unless it's super huge. You know I'm going to give you a hard time about celebrating, because we're all about celebrating this group. No, I'm teasing you, but I think it's just so great to see like those small wins, like that's part of your magic and so important to celebrate. And I think in terms of your magic too, Stephanie, like just something to play with is like, yes, celebrating those wins and owning them, and just starting to think about like, why am I the person, like because of this mess, like why am I the person that someone should hire? Like why am I the best solution for my people? Because I think that's a piece of the magic too, and celebrating that, because then you also don't have to wait for a win. It's sort of like just by virtue of being you and the magic you have and owning that and owning your work, you can share your magic. Let me know if that makes sense. Hey, Mary. Stephanie says, okay, that question was premature. Wow, I need to work on that magic part. Alexander says, this makes sense. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It's so much. So when I talk about the magic part, when I talk about taking up space, this is like the magic of taking up space. Taking up space in the online space. Taking up space, it's all about, can you own your magic? Can you own your work? Can you own, I am great at what I do, and I don't need to go out there and scream and yell. I'm always telling my clients, this is not about like yelling at the top of your lungs or needing to be big. I don't think I'm a particularly like big, bold. I think I'm like relatively soft-spoken, even though I think I take up a lot of space. I think we think it means we have to like be loud and all over the place. It's really, can you embody? Can you own your work? Can you own your magic? Can you own your fucking special sauce, why you're so good at what you do? And then can you go and take up space online and share that with people? That is sharing your magic. That's taking up space. And when you can combine that with also being willing to share the truth and the vulnerability and some of that mess, that will blow your business up in the best way possible. And that's how you take your content past. There's nothing wrong. I share tips all the time, right? There's nothing wrong with how-tos. There's nothing wrong with tips. There's nothing wrong with any content like that. But if you can then start to infuse it with this, and I'll give you some more client examples, that will just blow your business out of the water. Because again, Mary says, hey, so happy to have you here. I love you, lady. What that does for your business, again, it's not just like, it's taking up space, which is energetically magnetic. That compels people to come towards you. That makes people want to work with you. But it's also going back to that connection piece. The whole point, if you're showing up online, you're sharing content, you're connecting, like the whole point is connecting and building relationships. So you can build that know, like, and trust, so people can feel heard and understood, so they can feel safe to buy from you, right? Like that's kind of like the whole name of the game in business. Like that's everything we do. That's business in a nutshell. So if you are owning your mess and your magic and you're doing that together and taking up space that way, that is what that's the rocket fuel for your business. Like that's what connects people to you. And that's what connects people to you in a way where they also understand. And like, here's the kicker, why they understand why they should give you money. Like Tiffany says, I just shared my mess and my magic today. Yay me. I love that, Tiffany. I'm so proud of you. I'm celebrating that. I can't wait to see that. Stephanie says, I think I will make that a journal prompt for tonight regarding what is my special sauce. I love that. And Stephanie, I'll say with this, like sometimes we're so close to it. Like it might just be something that almost feels like it comes so easily to you where you want to discount it. Where it's just like, oh, but that doesn't count because I didn't have to work hard enough on that thing. So when you're journaling, just give yourself credit to look at some of the obvious things that might come easily to you, because sometimes that is a big part of the magic that we have a tendency as humans to discredit. Mary says, the mess is easy and the magic is a challenge for me. I do it, but I can do it more for sure. Thanks, Kim. Hearts back. I'm right there with you, Mary. Like the mess for me is so much easier to share. And this is why, I mean, like you can hide in plain sight by not sharing your mess, and you can hide in plain sight by not sharing your magic. For me, I hid in plain sight online. Stephanie says that is exactly my issue. So I think that's a really fun thing to play with, Stephanie. I'm like all over the place here, but to finish the thought with Stephanie, I think that's a really fun place to play with. Like, what do I do so easily? I almost discount it. I almost don't give it credit because it comes so easily to me, especially in my work. I think that would be I bet some of your magic is in there. So just a fun thing to play with. Kind of going back to the sharing the magic being the edge, I think that's what's fascinating, where it's like most of us have one or the other. We have a challenge sharing, and we use the other, whatever those two things are, right? Like mess or magic, whatever we feel comfortable sharing, we use the other one as the way to hide in plain sight. And that's what we kind of use, like where we're like, but I'm showing up and sharing, but really we're hiding in plain sight and not fully taking up that space. So I'll use myself as an example. When I started my business, I showed up and posted every day, y'all. Like I have posted every day in my business for, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years. I forget how long I've been in business. I haven't missed a day. Like I always share content. I shared really vulnerably. I shared my truth. I've never had a hard time sharing that. And it worked. Like that booked me clients. But here's how I hid in plain sight. I shared my mess. I did not share a lot of my magic. I was not showing up however many years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, saying, I'm a damn good coach. Like I'm the best place you can invest your money. I'm brilliant at business. I'm brilliant at mindset. Like I wasn't showing up and I was not owning my magic. I was not owning like one-on-one is like what I was born to do. Like I wasn't sharing these things. I wasn't sharing things like I did at the beginning of our call. I just had an 88K sales months as a one-on-one coach. I wasn't sharing those things because, as Mary was talking about, like that was it still is my edge. It's not like it suddenly is super, super comfortable for me to share, but I know I gotta walk my talk. And I know it's really important for me to demonstrate to you, yes, share your mess and share your magic, because you need both those pieces. And I've had to do a lot of work behind the scenes to feel comfortable enough to share my magic. And I share that just so you can see what I did at the start was I showed up and got really visible through my mess, and I hid in plain sight by hiding my magic. And so I had to do the work to take up space online around really making it safe and okay to share my magic. And I share that because I think sometimes we think it's the other way. Like it's easy to share your magic. It's hard to share your mess. And I think it can go either way depending on, what your history is, what your stories are, what's going on with your mindset. For me, and I know we talk about this all the time, like my thing is like, I don't ever want to make people mad. I'm a bit of a lot of my edge in the work I've had to do is around like not people pleasing and like wanting to make sure that I'm a caretaker and that I don't want people to be mad at me. Like that's been a lot of my like personal growth edge in work. And so my way of hiding in plain sight, right, is like I can share the vulnerable stuff because it's like me too. Like I understand you, I hear you. Like that is part of why I'm great at my work. And my story was if I share and if I take up space and I own the good stuff, I'm gonna make people feel shitty. Someone I went to high school with is going to think I'm a bitch and not want to be friends with me anymore. Like insert all the stories we have. And I shared this transparently so you can see my mess, but so you can also see the magic and those two pieces together and see like how we use the other one to hide. Does that make sense? So I think it's just an interesting thing for everyone here. If you're like, okay, so I share one, if you share both, like how can you lean into it even more? If you share both, like just a great opportunity to think like, where's my opportunity to lean into this more? If you find like you really lean one side to the other, like me or like Mary just said, I think it's just really fun to get curious around, like treat this like a game. Where do I have an easier time leaning in? What do I have an easier time sharing? My mess or my magic? And then how am I using the other one to hide in plain sight? How am I using Like, how am I hiding in plain sight by not sharing my magic? How am I hiding in plain sight by not sharing my mess? And like, what's the story there? What's the fear there? Because if you're hiding in plain sight in any way, there's a fear underneath that, right? Like, we hide because we're scared. So I think it's just really fascinating to get, like, why am I hiding? What's the story there? Like, what am I worried is gonna happen? Because that's the piece to play with mindset wise, so that you can kind of unlock that. Like, that's the mindset work to do, so you can start showing up and taking up more space, because you want both. And I'll give some examples. Joseph says, go Kim. Hey, thank you. Mary says, makes sense. Y'all are the best. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, let me know if you have questions. And I'm just seeing here, I've got some examples that I will share. One of the examples I had, which is not about the dating triangle, but the dating triangle is still cracking me up, is if we think about outside of business. I think dating analogies are always such a great analogy. This, you can see how sharing your mess and your magic is what's so important in a romantic relationship. And if you pull back on either one, how it can create problems in a romantic relationship or in a friendship, but we'll go romantic relationship. When you're dating and you want to find like the one or your person or get married or have a long-term relationship, it's so important that someone gets to know the whole you, right? Like, that's intimacy, that's vulnerability. And if you just showed up and shared your mess, like, I don't know, anyone ever been on the receiving side of that in a relationship? Like, how does that work out? Like, that's a little heavy. That's not how relationships work, right? And if you just showed up and only shared like your perfectly shiny, like awesome self and never shared vulnerably some of your mess, what happens? You lose some of that intimacy. You don't connect with someone as well. What you really need to have a whole relationship with someone is to be able to share your whole self in appropriate ways at appropriate times, right? Like, just like, we're not gonna just like spew all of our mess on someone like they're our therapist. That's not what you would do in a dating situation, I hope. If not, take some free dating advice. Don't do that. Just like you wouldn't just brag on yourself all through dinner, you would find ways naturally through conversation as you're connecting with another human, because that's how we connect, that's how we build intimacy, to share some of your truth, to share some of those messes, and to share some of those wonderful, brilliant, awesome things about you. And that makes you a whole human in a healthy relationship. When we start pulling back and hiding from a person we're dating because we're trying to seem a certain way, or we're trying to come across a certain way because we're worried they're not gonna like us, right? That's more hiding plain sight. And that's when we tend to have, like, at some point down the road, like, there's a problem, there can be problems in a relationship, right? Same in business. So I think it's just helpful to see like how that works outside of business, the same thing in business, and it's the same thing that then creates those connections online. It's relationships at the end of the day that also helps people feel safe enough to buy. Alexander says, that's a great example, that just clicked. Yay, I'm so glad that clicked. The example we were talking about with Craig earlier, and again, I would not usually share client names. He did a live stream. If y'all haven't seen it, it's a really great one. Go back in the live streams and watch it. I'll see if we can tag it on here later. He shared all of this, so I am not sharing anything he did not share, but he talked about how he hit rock bottom and he got arrested, went to federal prison. Like, that's his story that he shares about. And I think what's so beautiful in that example is, and he shares his magic. His magic is, then he rebuilt his life. He got out of prison, he rebuilt his life, he completely reinvented his life. He completely like rewired his thinking, changed his story, wrote a book, like built his life back up, built his business. I mean, it's really, like, it makes me have tears on a regular basis. And that's a beautiful example of someone who's done the work to share both and why you need both. We were talking about this a little earlier in the live stream, but if he just told you that I got arrested and went to federal prison and I had a really rough time and I thought about killing myself, and like shared that story and didn't share anything else, she'd be like, well, let me give you a lot of money so that you can coach me. That's what I want to do. You might be compelled by his story, but you wouldn't necessarily like, I need to hire you. It's because he also shares his magic, because he connects the dots for you and says, and here's all the work I've had to do to reinvent my life. Here's all the work I've had to do to rebuild my life. Here's like how I'm walking my talk and why I am the best person to hire if you've hit rock bottom and you're trying to rebuild and start over. So I think that's maybe a good example, like seeing those two pieces. Again, I'll use myself as an example. I'm like, I used to be terrified of sales and I used to be terrified of owning, my magic. And I used to like avoid sales like the plague. And I have done the work, mindset wise and strategy wise, to not just like master sales, but to love it so freaking much, where it's so easy. My sales calls feel like magic, and I sell like, it's like the easiest thing ever for me. And I connect with dream clients, and you know, I make 20 plus K cash months and sold 88K in sales, right? Like, if I share that, then you get to see mess to magic, and you get to see, part of that is you get to see the transformation. And as this is like the other piece here, I want to connect the dots for you. And then I'll open up for questions. When you can share both of these, so when you're not hiding in plain sight, when you're taking up space and you're like, I'm going to share both, and you connect those dots for your people, you also help them see that transformation. That's what most of the time people want to then pay you, like, right, that's what you're helping people with, that transformation. So when you can help people see that through you, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, because they can see what's possible through you, through your experience. And there's so much trust there, because then instead of just like, I mean, I love strategy, but then instead of just like, here are my 7 steps to doing something, they can really see through the person they're talking to and hiring. It's why we love those weight loss like pictures when people have before and after. The reason we love that is that's mess and magic in very like shallow, like visible form. Not to discount that at all, but just in terms of like what we're talking about here, it's like we get to see the transformation. We get to see what's possible. We get to see, oh, I don't have to feel shitty about myself wherever I'm at. I can see what they've been through, and I can also see like they're walking their talk, and kind of like mess magic before after. So maybe that's another way just to help your brain think about it, and why it's so important to include in your content, and how this helps you sell more. I promise this is game changing. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm seeing here if I had any examples that I forgot about. I feel like I always have a bunch of examples, and then I remember when we hop offline. I think those were the main ones. Let's see, Mary says, I just realized I really could be better at sharing both, actually. I love that that's clicking for you, and I wonder for anyone else, no one has to out themselves here, but if anyone wants to share, like, which one is easier for you to share, and where is that opportunity to share the other? And then I think, again, the magic is like, you can share them individually, and when you can combine them together, that's really powerful. I'm using myself as an example just because it's easier because I'm here, but I wrote a post, I don't know, a few weeks ago, where I told you all earlier, where I was like, a few years ago, I felt really crazy, and I found out that I have PMDD, the premenstrual dysmorphia, basically my brain around my period, the chemistry is wackadoo, and I feel like a crazy person, and I couldn't trust my thoughts for a long time. So I shared this post around that, and then I shared how mindset work, because I can't go on birth control because of a genetic disorder I have, and I didn't want to go back on medication, even though I fully believe in the power of medication. I was at a place where I didn't want the side effects, and I really wanted to, like, I'm a mindset person, that's the work I sell, so I really wanted to do the work to rewire my brain and see if I could essentially heal myself without medication, and I did. And like, I feel like I'm completely on the other side of that, and I never took any medication. And so I wrote this long post about it, and that's a great example of, like, I shared the mess and the hard part and the truth, but I also let people see the magic, and then help connect the dots, where it's like, so if you're here, if you're struggling here are some things you can think about. Here are some things you can do. Here are some like ways to think about it. And so having them together, like, if just to give like some practical, tangible tips here, like when you're writing content, I think when you can have those together, it's really powerful for your people. So you're not asking them to figure it out for themselves. Like, don't make your people do the work for you. Imagine people are lazy, and they're not lazy, they're just bombarded by 8,000 posts a day on social media. Do the work to connect those dots for them, because A, it's going to give them hope and tangible steps they can take, but it also really helps them see the before, the after. It helps them see mess magic. It helps them see, oh, you've walked that path, you're walking your talk, you can help me do the same. So a little extra like practical tip there, connect the dots when possible. Mary said, I love that post. Oh, thank you. I love that you love that post. And I think that's just an example of what we're talking about here, right? Like mess and magic, and taking up space, and seeing that taking up space, when we talk about that in the online space, when I talk about it at least, there was nothing in that post where I was like screaming or like, look at me, look at me. It was quite a vulnerable post. It was not the easiest thing in the world for me to write, but that's taking up space. And that's taking up space. I say like a boss because I think that's the part too where I was like, and I'm gonna share this because I know it's important to share. I know it's important to share my truth, and I don't wanna hide that from you, from my people. And I think that's the part where like when you think about yourself as a CEO, and I think as a service provider, whatever kind of work you do, I think we just hold a certain responsibility as entrepreneurs, especially right now with just where our world is. There's just a lot going on in our world. I think we hold a certain social responsibility if we're showing up, sharing content, sharing our voice. And I think part of it is just starting to see like, what are those things I owe, quite honestly, like I feel like I owe that to you to share with you. Stephanie says, my mess is easier. I just had someone at the end of last week ask if I had asked me if I have shared my story, and now you are bringing it back up. I think I will share both soon. Mess is easier. I think I would bet money that in this group, mess is easier for most people. I think if you're heart-centered, mess is just easier. And I think, not to like get stereotypical, but I think for a lot of creatives and a lot of us who are coaches and a lot of us who are service providers and heart-centered, like creative, heart-centered, what's the other one I said? Coaches, like all of like healers, all of us in that space, a lot of times we choose this work because we have had a mess that we've had to heal or transform or go through, right? Like that's why whether you're an artist or you're a healer of some sort, we tend to lean into this work. And so I think in that way, it's like we've almost like had to do the work, like with our mess, like whatever that might be. I know someone was sharing about content repurposing, but even there, it's like it's easier probably to share like what you've had to do to figure that process out, because it was probably a struggle at one point. Most of us are almost like it's easier to latch into, and I think for most people, the taking up space around owning your magic, that's the edge. So I'd be interested to hear, but I would bet money that it's funny because I think most of us would think it would be the opposite, where it's like scarier to share the mess, but I think for most people it's scarier to share the magic, and I think it is one of the biggest ways entrepreneurs hold themselves back and hide in plain sight. I know we've done a live on bragging before. I think Stephanie referenced that earlier, but oh gosh, I'll have to see if I can find that to link that up in here, but it kind of ties into that. It's like the more you can own that and take up space by owning your magic, I promise you, like the more your business blows up. Like it's because that's confidence, right? That is really compelling for people, and people feel safe. If you can own your work, you're like, I'm good at what I do, and I'm the best person to help you. Like when I say you are the best, like I sincerely believe I'm the best place you can invest your money if you want one-on-one support in business coaching. Because I'm honestly one of the very few coaches at my level who still offers one-on-one coaching. There's like a handful of us. Most people at my level are doing groups or masterminds. If you want one-on-one support, I know like the best investment you can make. When I can own that, whether or not you're watching this and you want to hire me, if you're someone who's thinking about hiring a one-on-one coach, that has to make you feel safer knowing that I believe that. Versus if I was like, oh, like I'm okay at what I do. And so if you can do the same thing for your work, if you can get clear, like what's my magic, and own that and let people know, like, and this is why you should hire me. Like, this is why I am the best place you can put your money to solve this problem. That creates a lot of safety and trust. All right. Let's see. Tiffany says, I don't really have a hard time sharing my mess or my magic, but I struggle with how to share it. I love that it's easy to tap into both, and I think that's a beautiful example for people watching to see as well. And I'm hoping maybe like what we talked about today will give you some ideas. I think sometimes it's just like if you have an easy time sharing both, I think sometimes it can be as simple as like kind of going through that like before after example, like where were you before, like what is that mess, like, and then connecting the dots to like either how that makes you, like how that ties into your magic and makes you so great at what you do, or how you help people like, with that same thing. But it's like, can you connect the dots for people like before and after, or sort of like this is why I'm so great at what I do. That might be a way to play around with that. Mary says, my messy mess was so why I went into coaching. Yeah, that's such a, like, I think it's so true for most of us who are in some sort of, service provider work. That messy mess, if I can get that out of that messy mess is why so many of us go into the work we do. And I think that's such a beautiful, like if you're someone who went into your work because of your messy mess, I think that's such a beautiful thing to own, because I know for me, I can spot bullshit in my clients from a mile away. If you're a client of mine, I love you, but like I'll call you on your bullshit with love because most likely I've pulled the same shit. So I can see it. And I think that's where it's like, if your messy mess is like, and Tiffany, maybe that's a way to play with it. Like sometimes that can be part of your magic where it's like, just because you've been through that and walked that path, it's not just that you can hear and understand it, but usually you can spot stuff in people in a way where someone who hasn't been through the mess can't, which is why they're usually doing other work. Mary says she's the best investment you can make. Aw, I would know I'm her client, and she helped me get my first official paying client. I've had 3 other coaches before her. Thanks, Kim. Don't make me cry live. Mary says, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna knock. I love you. Thank you for saying that on a live stream. I would never let anyone know who my clients are if they're not saying it, but thank you. So now I'm gonna turn bright red. I love you all so much. Thank you. I love you all. So to recap what we're talking about today, so I don't start crying, not that I'm ashamed of crying, but just so that I don't make this all about me. Does anyone have any questions before we wrap up kind of around this concept here, around this idea of taking up space, not hiding in plain sight, not using our magic to hide, not using our mess to hide, like not hiding between either, and really embracing the full human you are in your business and giving yourself that permission to share both, and knowing the more you lean into both, the more you're going to connect with people and sell online. If you have any other questions, I'll hop on for another second. And if not, my invitation to everyone, if you're here, you're in my Facebook group, use the Facebook group as a safe place to play. I mean, I know you're all like in the group also marketing, so I know it can come with a little bit more charge, but it is also a safe space. Like we've all just had this live stream. We're all talking about this. So use the space and write a post, like test it out here. You can even say like it's based off this live stream, support one another around it. Because I think sometimes then if they're like, whatever your edge is, if your edge is sharing your magic or if your edge is sharing your mess, like use the space. I know it's a big group, but still like use that space as our space as a little bit of a safer place to like practice that, to ask, for support, to see how people respond to it before you go share it elsewhere, and know that like I'm fully supporting that. And my invitation to you is, can you play in here and just like use this as a little bit of a playground to just see, like, it doesn't have to be perfect, because that's just another way we hide in plain sight. It doesn't have to be like perfectly all the dots connected. Just start putting it out there and just start like experimenting and seeing how it lands with people, and watch how it brings in your people. And I think maybe that's a beautiful way to close this out. I think the most beautiful thing when you lean into these two parts, your mess and your magic, is what it's going to do is it's going to help magnetize your people to you, the people you are meant to serve, your dream clients. And it might repel some people, and that in marketing and in business is a beautiful, beautiful thing. You know you're doing it right when you're repelling the people who aren't for you and you're attracting the people you are. And so when you share this way, you are probably going to repel some people who aren't for you, and that is amazing. It saves you a bunch of time, quite honestly, and it's going to help filter in those dream clients of yours, those people who are yours. So play around with that and just have that permission. It doesn't have to be perfect, and just to know it's okay to repel a few so you can attract your people. Just like in dating, right? We don't want to be for everyone. We want to repel the people that aren't for us so that we can connect with and have those people who really are for us see us. Tiffany says, thanks, Kim. Thank you. I love you all so much. Alexander says, absolutely. I think that's the dating reference. Absolutely. All right, I am going to now go be with my person who I attracted in the other room through this same process. We're going to go have dinner, and I will see you all next week. We'll have another live training then. And I have our new free training for the month. I don't think we have a link for it yet, so I'll share that next week. So I can invite you all to that. Last thing I should share. If you are interested in one-on-one coaching, I'm almost fully booked through the end of the year. I have a few spots remaining in November and December and booking for the end of the year. So if it is something you're interested in, you're like, I've been wondering what it would be like to work with Kim, book a call. I promise there's no pressure, and I promise if we're not a fit, I will lovingly tell you, because like I'm all about fit and working with people who are a fit. But I would invite you, if that's something you've been thinking about, book a call now, because those spots will go, and then I won't have openings until 2021. So full transparency, hop on a call if you want to chat about working together. I love you all. Have a beautiful evening, and I will be back next week. Bye.